My first question, Dr. Saiba, would be that on the 16th of August, the UN Security Council held informal consultations on Jammu and Kashmir. Is the government trying to have a special session of the UN Security Council exclusively on Jammu and Kashmir, a special session, or we have left it at that, at the, we have left it at the informal consultations? What is the strategy now to take the whole issue forward?
I think all options are being discussed. I am not aware of whether we are trying to seek a special session. In my view, we should, but I'm not part of the Foreign Office decision making, as you're well aware, and I'm not part of the Kashmir cell that has been made by the Foreign Minister. So, but this has been a suggestion that has been debated about having a special session. The problem, of course, lies in the veto process. But I think now the ground situation is altering. The fact that the US Congress had a whole session on Kashmir, the fact that the British government has also been talking on Kashmir, the EU has had. So I think that maybe for a discussion on the issue of Kashmir, especially as it is a threat to international peace and security, should not necessarily be something that we cannot achieve. I think unless we explore and we move forward, if you're going to live in fear that veto ho jayega, then we're not going to get anywhere. So I think that that session should be called and we should work towards it. We have a very seasoned diplomat now in New York, and I think that that should be the aim, to have even getting a special session just on discussion, whether it ends in a resolution or not, will be a major step forward for us and a big diplomatic setback for India. And it's these visuals and perceptions of setbacks that eventually do help. And I think we should be moving in that direction.
Any question from the audience? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adnan from University of Peshawar, University of the Punjab and Namal at the moment. Well, it's a great opportunity for learning, and it's definitely a different format, a very useful one from the traditional ones in which there's a great comfortability from the panel and from the stage. So this is appreciated. So hats off to the President and the Chairman and their very dedicated and smart team. I would take up the last point of Dr. Mazari, of whom I have remained a fan since long. We say there's a one-liner that political, diplomatic and moral support, but as per the situation, a little kind of that activity which makes the world realizes that things are not good. If not for the Pakistanis nationals, but what about the Kashmiris themselves? If they want to do a little hue and cry in that sense, that world gets a little alarmed, But if we keep on saying, and in all these seminars and conferences, good enough for the food of thought. But you see, when you go into we say that diplomatically, politically and morally, but also a little bit of pressure from the ground. If we say talk and fight, we cannot fight in that way, but to that extent. But another thing is that I would like to state that we somehow have not been able to educate the audience at large, not even from the side of the government. That, and which something which Gilani Saab spoke about very bravely, I would say today, that Article 370 has not been fully scrapped. So if we keep on repeating this one line that we need to tell the students particularly very systematically in a research manner that how they have done it. So I think in such seminars, if we keep on repeating one liner, it is not good. I think we should be taking.
Yeah. Okay. I have always had a problem with the one-liner, so I have never repeated it or said it. Okay, we support them. My point is, we need to, my own view is we should have a blueprint to offer as a discussion for resolution of the conflict. and I've been promoting a particular model of conflict resolution. Okay, whether you agree with it or not, at least start a discussion so the world knows you're serious about it. Tell them we have a blueprint. Call the Kashmiris all representatives, and the intermediate steps I've suggested you can take also, like ask the UN to prepare a registry of Kashmiris across the world who would actually participate in an eventual plebiscite. You have a huge Kashmiri diaspora. Pakistan में तो फिर भी there is a registry because यहाँ elections AJK में होते हैं, so the Kashmiris in Pakistan who vote in it and so on. But in other parts of the world there's no registration of Kashmiris. It would be a confidence building measure, and we should ask the UN to do it. We should also demand in the interim till discussions are going on that you should have the Anmo give back on the other side of the line of control. You should also demand at some stage the troops should go back to the barracks and there should be de-weaponization. These are interim steps Pakistan should demand that the UN put forward, and then within that you begin a dialogue as happened in the Good Friday Agreement with all the Kashmiri groups, those leaders who supported, up to nobody does, the Indian government plus the APHC, which is the most vital part of the Kashmiri leadership, frankly, for political dialogue, plus the Kashmiris and AJK, bring them all together and then have a dialogue at two levels, one with them and one with the government of India and Pakistan holding it together. Parallel tracks, it has been done in the the Good Friday Agreement. Also, you know, people say, India to kabhi baat hi nahi karega. तो भाई उस वक्त अफगानिस्तान भी नहीं बात कर रहा था. You had proximity talks conducted by the UN. So conduct proximity talks, but give some proposals. The Pakistani side, I'm saying, the government, instead of just saying we offer political, military, I mean, sorry, not military, political, Freudian slip, political,
even that is okay,
moral diplomatic support. This is a hackneyed phrase. I have always objected to it. It conveys nothing. It shows that you're really not serious beyond moving beyond rhetoric. So I totally agree with you. The phrase is meaningless.
I'm Rabia Amir, and I'm assistant professor of English at NAMAL. And my question is very open-ended. Is there a possibility that our government, that on a government level, this thing should be brought into notice, and historical absences? I am only going to talk about 3 historical absences. For example, the first historical absence is to drag Gilgit-Baltistan into this whole debate, which is, we all know that they threw off all vestiges of Dogra rule and opted for Pakistan at that point in time. In 1947, when there was a lot of Lito Lal, we would say, from the Kashmir, जो हमारा जम्मू एंड कश्मीर के जो हुक्मरान थे उस वक़्त, उनके तरफ से जो लीतो लाल था, उसके बरक्स उन्होंने फ़ौरन फैसला कर लिया था. And the other thing is that Azad Jammu, Azad Kashmir, if they retaliated at that point in time, that was an in-house affair. This is the second historical absence that we should bring into the notice. Another, very importantly, is the Kargil. आज हम कारगिल करते हैं. यहाँ पे कारगिल का जी अफेयर किया, तो उस वक़्त का कारगिल पे जब अटैक किया था 14th and 15th of August 1947, India attacked. Pakistan reacted because it was attacked at that point in time. Why don't we bring that into our narrative, our normal, pervasive narrative? So that's my question. That can that happen, and that should bring into the legal framework also.
I think that the Gilgit-Baltistan issue definitely needs to be focused. There's a lot of problems related to it, some self-created. It's not an historical absence, it's a historical confusion that we need to rectify. On the other examples, I'm really not sure why you would mean that, because there's no historical absence. We are not, our history doesn't say that we went and attacked Jammu and Kashmir to begin with. So there is no absence there. It's how far back in history. There are lots of things that our history books don't mention, which should be mentioned. But I'm not sure what you meant by if AJK had retaliated. AJK was being freed by the Kashmiris, and therefore you have why we call it Azad Jammu and Kashmir. And as I said earlier, the constitution says that this is the government of all Kashmir, and therefore I said there's no need to have government in exile, because you're undermining your own position and also undermining recognition that Azad Kashmir was liberated from Indian occupation.
Dr. Sahiba, will your government respond positively to any suggestion emanating from the Indian side or from any other quarters to have to resume dialogue with India before India first meeting all those requirements as were enumerated in our Prime Minister's article of 22nd August, which appeared in New York Times?
Our position at the moment is very categorically clear. We will not have any dialogue with India till it reverses its annexation of Jammu and Kashmir.
Last question, please, from the audience. Yes, sir. No, Acharya, आप उठ गए, please, please.
जी, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Madam, you have spoken very well about the AJK, that it is a free government and it is Azad government and all that, and that it represents the whole of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. I'm sorry to say that there is nothing like that in the AJK constitution, and there is nothing like that in Pakistan constitution. Under the AJK constitution, nobody, no state subject can question the ideology of state succession to Pakistan. So everybody has to give an affidavit that I believe in the ideology of state succession to Pakistan. Of course, there are 99% people, they believe in Pakistan, accession to Pakistan. But the specific clause in the constitution that nobody can speak against the ideology of accession state to Pakistan, it redundants your move of Azad Kashmir or this Azadi or like anything like that. Number one. Number two, there is a clause in the constitution of AJK that the government of Pakistan can take any action notwithstanding government of AJK. So that is override. Thirdly, there is a clause in the constitution of AJK that the UNCAP, the government of Azad Kashmir will have nothing to do with UNCAP resolutions. The Kashmir question is relates to the people of Kashmir. If they are excluded from the UNCAP resolution, what remains there? Thank you.
One, I think you're mixing up two things. Yes, the power of the Azad Jammu and Kashmir government is restricted, and that can be debated, the constitution. But nowhere does it say that the AJK government only represents AJK. It represents Kashmiris, basically. Well, I think we need to re-examine that. But anyhow, I wish I had gotten it. But the other thing is that the Pakistan constitution also leaves the specifics of Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan till the final decision made by the Kashmiris. In fact, in our 1963 China-Pakistan border agreement, Article 6 specifically states that only when the final agreement on Kashmir is reached will the border be defined. So all these actions in legal language or legal, if you look at it legally, show that we recognize that till the issue of Jammu and Kashmir is decided according to UN Security Council resolutions, because remember, our raison d'etre, our legitimacy as being a party to the dispute rests with the in the UN Security Council resolutions. So we have recognized legally, de facto and de jure in all the agreements we have signed relating to any territory of Kashmir that we cannot take a definitive decision till the final settlement, and the Chinese have agreed with that, and hence you have Article 6 in the 1963 border agreement. I just want to make one point, especially to our young people, that there is identical Security Council resolutions on East Timor and Kashmir, And yet the East Timor issue was resolved, not because Indonesia wanted to, but because pressure was put. And the East Timor freedom fighters were given Nobel Peace Prizes during the struggle to become independent. And if you read the resolutions, they are identical. So the question then arises that is it only because Indonesia was a Muslim country that the world put pressure for East Timor to become independent, and here because the Kashmiris are Muslims and the occupation force is not, so therefore the world is quite happy to have Kashmiris live under occupation and be abused and violated against? This is a question that we should ask the rest of the world. And one other point, Kashmiri's case is even stronger because the Indians themselves took the case to the UN Security Council, and they took it under Chapter 6, where they admitted it's a dispute between Pakistan and India, because that chapter is Pacific Settlement of Disputes, and it did not take it under Chapter 7, whereby Pakistan could have been accused of being an aggressor state. This point also needs to be made over and over again, which we sadly do not make. So these are important points when we are conducting a campaign to remember and cite, because they work to our advantage and they relate the true picture of the whole conflict.